4 years ago, I sat down in a very similar position where I had my camera fixed across from me and I simply started speaking. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know what shape it was going to take. And it turned into my first ever podcast episode. And the podcast was called Coffee Talk. Very original, very clever. I was thinking to myself for the longest time that I wanted to make videos, and I didn't really understand why. And I'm here 4 years later and I still don't understand why. I went on a rampage for a while of creating social media content, creating videos, taking photos, and it just felt like a way I could express myself. It didn't feel like it was art, but art is an expression of your thoughts or your ideas, and that's what it felt like. So I suppose it falls under the bracket of art. Fast forward 4 years from when I first sat in front of the camera and talked shit for a couple of minutes. A lot has changed, and I look back on that podcast episode and it was arguably the biggest catalyst I've ever experienced. It changed my life from being someone who had no direction, no intention, and no idea as to what I wanted to do with my life to somebody that had a job, was working in a cool industry, working with cool creative people, to now owning my own business, managing a team, and working with clients on a day-to-day basis, providing a service that I created. I didn't pioneer social media content and I didn't pioneer what I'm doing for clients, but I decided that this is something I'm going to do, and I figured out a way to make some money doing it. I'm not here to talk about the concept of making money or talk about the concept of, propelling your life to abnormal heights. I don't by any means think I am that person, nor can I expect to be that person, but a lot has changed in my life, and I feel like if I wasn't to document it and I wasn't to talk about the stuff that I have going on or talk about the ideas that I have, I would be doing myself dirty. Because when I'm 60, I want to be able to have something to look back on and say, holy shit, look at me. When I was 22, I was doing this thing. So sitting back down here in front of a camera with a microphone feels kind of nerve-wracking, which is weird. I went through a period after I made that first podcast where I would make regular YouTube videos. I would make content on Instagram. I'd post photos. I was making YouTube videos with people, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. It's not something I look back on and think, God, what was I thinking? And that to me is a sign that I need to do it, and I need to continue doing it. And I think the format of me sitting down and talking is a preferred format because I love to talk. If you know me, you probably know that I have a lot of thoughts and I talk quite a bit, and it can be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing. Sitting back down here in an office space is something I never would have thought that I would have when I was 19 years old. I'm 22 now, which only makes it, it's my birthday in like a month. No, it's my birthday in a week, so I'm actually pretty much 23, probably by the time this comes out, 23. And yeah, I never would have thought that I would be here. When I first set up that camera in my room, it was an act of desperation. I was like, I need to do something. I need to create something that's a little bit bigger than me so I feel like I'm not wasting my life. And it sounded like I was about to get emotional. I'm not. I had something in my throat, just to clarify. I felt like I needed to create something bigger than me because me wasn't enough. And it's this weird sense of longing that you constantly look towards what the next thing is. Business for me is no different. I'm always thinking about how can we be better? How can I do this? How can I do that? And it's rare that you sit back and look at the things you've done and say, good job. So good job for the things that you've done so far. But there's so much more you can do. And again, I think that's why I'm here talking to the damn camera, because I'm sure there's someone that's been in my position. I'm sure there's someone that's been 19, got their leaving cert, finished their exams, whatever exams you did, and felt like you had no direction or nothing to do. And that's normal. And it's probably a good thing that you feel that way. I think society has programmed us to go from A to B, listen to instruction, behave accordingly, listen to instruction, behave accordingly, and you do this loop and loop and loop, and all of a sudden you're 60 years old, you're retired, you don't have a lot of money, you wish you did all these things. And I think if you're thinking that you're a little bit lost, it's a good thing, because you should be lost when you're 19 years old. You shouldn't know what the fuck you want to do. I'm 22 now, nearly 23, and I still don't fully know what I want to do. And I think anybody that tells you that their heart's set on something at this age is probably lying. people pivot, people change ideas and concepts. And, you meet someone when you're like, for me, it might have been 16. I meet the same person now, and I'm like, it's a completely different person because their surroundings changed, their environment changed, and their perspectives changed. And I think that's a good thing. You have to keep learning. And it's this concept of like, do something, publish it, iterate it. And the publishing aspect might just be trying it out in person. Maybe it's you want to start talking about different things or expressing yourself differently. And then you do it, you get the results, whatever the results may be. Maybe it's someone looks at you weird, somebody's like, oh, you should do more of that. And then you try it again, and you constantly do this. And that's like the self-improvement loop. For me, sitting here and talking to a camera feels like I'm doing myself justice. Not that I think I'm a highly intelligent person or that I have splitting atom concepts, but I do think that there's something in here that I have to unpack. And the idea with this is to, again, create something much bigger than me. I love talking to people and I love learning new things. And I think the easiest way to learn new things is to listen with two ears. So again, the concept, we have two ears, we've one mouth. So whoever made us was really trying to tell us something. It feels weird to pause because I'm in a podcast scenario, but sometimes I have to gather my thoughts. So if you are listening to this and I go quiet for a moment, don't fret. I'm still here. I'm just thinking about stuff or getting distracted from doors opening and doors closing. When I was 19 years old, everything felt humongous to me. The world felt big. It was undiscovered. I hadn't done many things, so it's hard to quantify what you're good and what you're bad at. Now that I'm 22, 23, the world still feels big, but it's not as big. I've seen more places. I've done more things. I've tried new things, and it's easier to make informed decisions. So if I had a message to myself when I was 19, I would say it's good that you feel lost. And in order to feel found, you have to fucking walk around or try different shit to find the way out. And that's what I did. Again, this podcast was a huge catalyst for my life changing in the direction it's changed. And I'm definitely overall a happier person now than I was when I was 19. It's weird to be talking to the camera again. And if anyone is listening or watching this one, it's going to be a weird one for you. I took such a long break from creating content because I went through this time where I just didn't know what to make and I didn't have the motivation to do it. And I'm a firm believer that motivation is for pussies. If you rely on motivation to do things, you're never going to get things done. But I didn't have the discipline, more importantly, to do it. I had these ideas and I wanted to do them, but I always was waiting for the right moment. And this is a common thing that I notice myself doing, and I mistake perfectionism for procrastination. I put things off because I'm like, I want to do it perfectly, but the reality is I'm just putting it off because I'm procrastinating it. And if you're guilty of doing this, maybe it's a case of just reframing it. What I do for myself is I try to think, is this something that needs to be perfect, or is this something that I don't want to do? When I can boil those down and look at A and look at B, it's a lot easier to make a decision. I don't think this has to be long. I think this is a good dry run for me to get back into the swing of things. But I took such a long break from socials because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I felt this immense pressure every time I picked up the camera because I started doing it as work. What was once a hobby for me became my job and is now like pretty much my life. I work on this every single day. I put so much time into it. So it feels like when I'm picking up the camera on a weekend, it doesn't really feel like I'm picking up the camera on a weekend. It feels like I'm picking up the camera and doing work. And there's pressure associated with that because I want to please people. But the only audience that you should please is yourself. Because if you please yourself, there's probably a million other versions of you out there that will look at what you've done and think, well, I can relate to that. Or I think that's pretty cool. And I don't think enough people talk about that. I think a lot of people focus in on showing everybody what they're doing, and not a lot of people talk about how they do it or what it takes to do said thing. And again, maybe I'm lying here because you could probably go on YouTube and discover 1,000,001 different concepts as to how people get from A to B. And this is a fucking mess. This is a fucking mess. And this is perfectionism kicking in here because I don't know what I want it to be. And I'm trying to shape something in midair as the camera's on me. And 19-year-old Dylan would have just posted this because something was good enough. But now that I'm 22, I'm looking back and thinking this isn't good enough because I'm losing my trail of thought. And maybe that's just a spiraling loop that I have to contend with myself. But rather than but, I should say and. I'm doing it. I'm sat here and we're doing it. I guess For me, I don't know what it's going to be yet because it doesn't exist. And I made a video recently about the concept of like identity-based performance. And for me right now, I'm a podcaster. And what would a podcaster do? They would have show notes and they would have a general idea as to the direction the show should go in. They wouldn't sit down in front of the camera with no concept, because that's really just for a short form video. But maybe that's what a short form video is. So maybe this is a short form video, or maybe it's a podcast. I had an idea for what I wanted to do on this episode about 2 weeks ago, and because my brain has 8 megabytes of RAM, I didn't write it down and I've forgotten it. And I feel like I've absolutely effed myself by doing so, because I remember thinking of the idea and I was like, that's genius. I should do that. And 2 weeks later, I've forgotten what it is and I haven't done that, which is fine, but it's less than ideal. I would have liked to be able to have done it. This is the start of something much bigger. It's not always going to look like this. It's not always going to sound like this. I'm not always going to be this unprepared. Hopefully never be this unprepared again. And let this be a lesson to me. Don't show up to shit unprepared. I never do for work. And this is something I'm doing for myself. And I was like, fuck it. You know what? I'll try it, see how it goes. Tried it, saw how it went. Didn't go well. Go back to the drawing board. And that's okay. Have to get better, but you have to start somewhere. And this is me starting somewhere. And again, that's okay. I can't expect to be perfect all the time. Not that I'm ever perfect, but I like to think I put a lot of effort into stuff and get it close to a point where I would like to perceive that as perfection. But alas, I'm rambling at this point. There's probably little information or little benefit for you inside this video or podcast or audio format, whatever you're listening to it on, and that's fine. We have to start somewhere, and let this be an indicator to you. If you're putting something off, you don't want to do it because you're afraid you're not going to do very well, watch this video. And it's fine. It is fine. No one's going to shoot me for this. I'm not going to lose my job for this. I'm not going to get in trouble for this. It's happening. It's out here. And now that I'm thinking about it more, it's just simply a case of I don't know what I want to discuss. I don't want to be talking about random shit that I think and then realize that nobody else cares. But maybe that's because I'm doing it for too many people and I should just do it for myself. I have a monitor in front of me here of myself so I can see if I'm in focus. And it's only been 2 minutes since I last looked. I felt like that had been 5. That shows you how this is going. This is just literally a case of me speaking to the camera and rambling and ranting. This is a terrible podcast. And I remember the first time I posted a podcast, it was also a terrible podcast. So maybe this is a good thing. Maybe I'm doing the right thing by being bad. And maybe by being bad, I will be better. And obviously by being bad, I'll be better, because that's the only way you can improve. You have to fuck shit up. You have to fail. And then you figure out how to fix it. Whereas if there's nothing to fix, nothing will be fixed. And the unfixed thing will always be shit. Boom. There's a piece of knowledge for you. So yeah, just start it. Whatever it is, if you're thinking about doing something, obviously don't start heroin. But if you are thinking of doing something, starting a business, starting a content page, starting whatever it might be, you have an idea and you're just putting it off for the right moment doesn't exist. And again, let this video be a testament to the fact that the right moment doesn't exist. You'll never have all of your eggs in the right basket. And sometimes you just have to jump in off the deep end and figure it the fuck out. That's what they do with babies when they're young. They throw them in pools and they'll bob around and they figure out how to swim. I'm currently a baby in a pool and I'm bobbing around, flailing, trying to figure out how the fuck am I going to make this work? And I know it's going to work and I know it's going to be great. It's just not great yet. That's okay. I think I'll leave you guys there, or whoever's listening. Maybe it's one person. I'll leave you there because I don't really think that I'm going to spit much more knowledge at this point. It's 6 o'clock. My brain's starting to slow down a little bit. It's been a long day. And again, that's fine. We made the effort. We showed up. We put the rep in. It wasn't a great day, but we got here. Not every day should be a great day. If every day was great, every day would be bad. So we'll take it. We'll put it in our back pocket. Sorry, I just smacked there. And this microphone probably picked it up beautifully. But yeah, things are changing. Things are getting a little bit bigger. I'm a little bit bigger. I've grown an inch since I was last on camera. So I'll put myself down at 6'2" now, which is great. It's good to be walking around at a good height. You see things differently. It's not true at all. And that was a stupid joke. And it landed flat because there's no one else in the room. And that's fine. I need to get used to the fact that there's probably not going to be many people in the room when I'm doing these things. But my conversational judo would be much better if there was somebody here. So Anybody that wants to be on the podcast, just shoot me a DM and we'll hook it up. That's a big lie. That's a big lie. And I shouldn't have said that because not everybody, I don't think I'd be able to talk to everyone. If I'm being frank and honest, shout out to Centra. But yeah, I said I was going to end it and I didn't end it. And now it's 15 minutes in. So I think this is good enough for the first time. I've burned the ears off everybody for long enough. If you want to follow me on social media. I can't guarantee there's going to be much of me there because although I work in social media, I find it extremely anxiety provoking now to go onto social media. I was on social media today and I saw some dude that owns another media company announced he's working with a specific brand and he used my video to showcase to people that he's working with the brand. Fucking outrageous. I watched the video and I got very emotionally charged by it. And I emailed the person and I was like, what's going on here? This looks a bit weird to me. And the person from the brand got back and they were like, we can take it down, whatever. And I decided, you know what? It's fine. It's not worth it. I'm overreacting, but that is really weird to do that. So if you're listening, which I highly doubt, that wasn't very cool, man, but it's fine. I'm not going to cry about it. But yeah, that happened today. And I was emotionally charged about it. And again, that's fine. I'm allowed to be emotionally charged about something. I was emotionally charged, but I wasn't reactive, which is a good thing. Because if I was reactive, it's not like me, man. I don't get angry a lot of the times. But that just didn't sit right with me. It would be like if you took an essay from somebody and you said, this is mine, which is plagiarism. But that's okay. And everything in this podcast has been okay. I've said that so many times, but it's a thing I try to do to calm myself and talk myself off the edge so I don't jump off the cliffs of Moher. Not physically, but in terms of the conversation or the thought process. Because sometimes I could be can get involved in the catastrophication. And that doesn't really help. So it's fine. But yeah, that's what happened for me today. And I'd imagine I said, but yeah, quite a lot too, because I do that. I do that when I finish a train of thought and I'm trying to fill the silence and I'm trying to get better at accepting the silence because silence is also okay. If you thought I was going to say okay, you were right. Okay, I'm out of here. Follow me on social media. This is going to just get bigger. And I think I'm going to call it Off the Rip because that feels pretty cool to me. The first podcast I did was pretty much off the rip. I sat down in front of the camera and let my brain wander. And that's what this has been. I've sat here and let my brain wander for long enough and I'm going to leave you be. So welcome to Off the Rip. This has been a very long-winded introduction and hopefully shed some light on the fact that I haven't been on social media and now I'm back on social media, but I will primarily be living on YouTube. So if you want to contact me there. I'll probably get back to you. And yeah, welcome to Off the Rip, people. I hope you had a wonderful day and I hope you'll enjoy listening to this in the future. Boom. Thanks, guys. Bye.